than seeing a commercial about what's patriotic and what's not.
Hey, Paul,
Hey, Chris,
I had a thought.
what was it?
Religion is the greatest media company of all time, and in particular, Catholicism.
Why Catholicism specifically?
So that has a very clear start date and still reigns, if not supreme in the world, one of the major ongoing religions with a centralized hierarchy and corporate structure. So I'm using Catholicism as a placeholder for if it's not Catholicism, then Christianity in general, starting from Jesus 2019 years ago until today. Right. So
Right.
just off the bat, right? What other company can you name that's existed for 2019 years?
The Simpsons? The Simpsons. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, it's kind of. It's kind of like the Simpsons arc. I think it's going downhill recently, but
Ouch.
yeah, right. Snap. That was an original joke right there. And so the nice thing about Catholicism too is it still has a CEO. So you can trace the CEOs from pope to pope, going all the way back to Peter or Paul, whoever the first pope was. Again, I'm using Catholicism and Christianity as a stand-in for religion generally, but it just fits because it's so well organized and has like a corporate structure. It just fits particularly well. I like Catholicism simply because it has a I know it the best from my personal experience, and it has a very obvious corporate structure with a pope as the top, and then cardinals being vice presidents and bishops being general location managers, all the way down the line to the point where they have literally free. They have somehow managed to lobby their way into having unpaid 12-year-old interns do work for them. They pay below minimum wage. They pay no taxes on land, and they are able to have unpaid interns starting with child labor.
Well, not only are they able to have that, but it's culturally instituted.
It's encouraged. Parents encourage it.
Exactly.
Yeah. My argument has two parts to it. That it is a company, and then the second one is that it's a media company. And so I had actually had this thought eating breakfast at 6 a.m. before going to work at a diner one day. And there were 2 or 3 people planning a Bible study or a youth ministry type project. And I was thinking to myself, man, these people are here at 6 a.m. in the morning working on this thing that I don't even understand why anyone would go to. And I was starting to get frustrated. Like, how can we be wasting this money? How can people waste their money? These people are getting paid to do this, whatever kind of ministry that they were doing. And it dawned on me, like, why am I getting upset? Right? If people want to spend money and pay someone to do this for them, they obviously derive value from it. And that value is essentially in the form of media. It's a communication, it's a community. It's like having a sports team that you go to and you cheer for, and you have your friends that are fans. But it's something like a live event type media company.
It would be any company's dream to have that kind of institutionalism where not only when you go to work during office hours are you completely dedicated and devoted to the company message, but that it doesn't end during those hours. You go home and you're arguably more devout to this particular institution, and your whole life is based on the mission statement or whatever of this company, as you say.
From the time you're very young.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what Apple and Google are going for.
But even them, right? Like, even they can't, with all of their lobbying power, haven't been able to reduce their taxes as much. I mean, maybe Amazon pays 0 taxes, but I think the Catholic Church probably gets money from the government somehow, I'd imagine, as a nonprofit status.
But I would argue that someone like Apple or Google or Amazon are happy paying taxes if they can get people to base their lives around their products and their services, which, I mean, Amazon, they're getting pretty damn close.
Right. And then you have basically everyone's a brand evangelist. So everyone's going out. So maybe not as much now, but they're going to go out and at least say that what their religion is to their friends. And they'll tell people, I'm going to church on Sunday. I can't come out, or do you want to come with me? Right. And so the fandom is it's zealous. So this is, again, focusing on like the media aspect of it. Once a week, you go with all of your friends to this live event. I mean, it's almost a concert. There's singing involved. There's dancing involved. You enjoy your time there. And as part of your enjoyment from that, you usually do one of two things. You either volunteer at the church in some way, or you pay a
Tithe.
And so you're paying for the entertainment that you're receiving. And I'm not actually saying there's anything wrong with this. So my original thought started off in like kind of, I don't understand why people would spend money on it. But when you think about it, you have all of this community that you have around you. You all go to this live event. It's like going, right? It's like being able to go to like a Led Zeppelin concert every weekend, really, with fans that are all equally excited and to be there with you. It's basically everything you can imagine for a band or a sports team exists for religion. So you have subreddits, you have fan boards, you have small groups. You can go practice ahead of time. You can pay to get better at it by doing, Bible study or studying theology. They literally have media in the form of a Bible that is ubiquitous. So they've done such a good job of branding that every person in the world knows the brand, or at least let's say 99% of people in the world know the brand, which is unbelievable. Imagine if everyone knew what, Apple might be there, but if everyone in the world knew your brand.
I mean, even Apple, you couldn't go to anywhere on the planet and say, "Do you know what this is?" and show them an iPhone. They may know it's a phone, but they wouldn't know it was an iPhone. But you hold up a Bible or a crucifix, and they sure as hell will know what that is. Whether they hate it or love it, they will know what it is.
So there's two types of brand awareness. There's aided, which is, I tell you, name a real estate company.
It starts with an R. What is it? I know it's an R
Realtor,
word.
Redfin, Realtor.
Oh, it's not Recode. For some reason, I can't get Recode. Recode is in my brain right now. There's an R.
There's Realtor, Redfin, Remax.
Remax. Boom. I thought of it.
So that was attempt at being unaided. Unaided is you say a thing, and the first brand that comes to your mind is the brand that's unaided, and then the other one is I say like, "Have you heard of Zillow?" And then that's aided. So if you have heard of them, then it's right. But so Christianity, you throw a cross up there, and the whole world is going to know what you're talking about.
And there is such history behind that symbology that how could you not
Symbolism? I don't know. That's just from. Have you ever seen Boondock Saints?
No.
Oh, you have to go watch Boondock Saints. You haven't seen Boondock Saints?
No.
You're a professional movie human.
Man, I haven't seen a lot of movies.
Really?
I haven't seen, what was the first Quentin Tarantino movie where they're all dressed in different colored suits?
Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah, I've never seen that movie. I've never seen Sandy Brown or Jackie Brown.
Yeah, I've seen that. Should I watch that? I've seen it on like Netflix.
Everybody says it's really good.
Have you seen The Big Lebowski?
Of course, yeah.
Well, I mean, of course you should have seen Boondock Saints.
I know. Well, look, there aren't conventions solely based around the Boondock Saints as there are the Big Lebowski.
Yeah, the Lebowski probably has its own religion, I imagine. The dude.
It is a religion.
Is it? The dude abides?
I guarantee somebody has filed a 501c whatever and has the Lebowski religion.
And what is that drink he drinks with the milk?
The White Russian.
Yeah, you just bring a White Russian in a bathrobe and you just go and talk about nothing.
And I'm sure, the first thing you do when you walk into the church is you piss on a rug. Right? That's like instead of lighting a candle, you piss on a rug.
Yeah, and there's bowling alleys in the background whenever you're ready.
It's to be able to get to that level, I guess you need to be around for a couple of centuries, but also you kind of need to kill several million people in the name of your company.
Golly.
So I guess
no. There's no such thing as bad publicity, is what you're telling me.
I guess so.
Yeah.
The idea of calling Catholicism a company.
Yes.
It kind of is a company, literally and also metaphorically, as you were saying. You're using corporation terminology, but I'm sure that when the business people of Catholicism sit down around a table, they use the same terminology too.
I'd imagine. They have, geo managers that are in parts of certain geographies. They are probably thinking, how do we get the brand more? How do we increase our user base?
Are they the biggest landowners on the planet?
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard
that too. I don't know if it's true, but
yeah, it's also interesting too. Like they could invest more when you think about it. Like they have, let's just say they keep the property but sold everything inside of it. right? Even the Vatican,
Yep.
just in the Vatican, if they just sold everything in there, it's probably hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars worth of just art and artifacts. Right? If you're truly a nonprofit trying to help poor people, then why is your corporate entity stockpiling more cash than Apple has? Right? Like, there's no need for that unless
I mean, what are they going to do with the cash? I guess they can live off the interest.
I imagine they can somehow. There's somehow you could be doing a greater good than having the art in the Vatican. There's got to be some. As a nonprofit, you should be able to efficiently use capital to some positive end that isn't in artwork.
Do they invest only in in artwork already created, or do they also invest in new art?
I don't know. So I think their growth strategy right now, if I'm the Pope, I think my growth strategy, I think it's pretty obvious, right? Is emerging markets. So he's focused a lot in Latin America, I think in particular, in growing the base there. So it's as if Apple is moving into China, Google's trying to move into China. The Catholic growth strategy is, can we move into Latin America? They do have to figure out a plan to keep going. So I feel like religion in general in the West doesn't have the same importance. So it could just be my filter bubble. And the people that I interact with, religion is no longer the thing you do Sunday. So they have the same kind of problem that Facebook has, where it makes all of its money in the US and is trying to figure out how it can diversify out of the US. So
right. I've heard the same thing, that participation in organized religion is on the downturn.
Yeah.
In the United States. I don't know if that's true in South America or in Europe or whatever, but I would love to know what that speaks to. Does that just speak to an evolution of mindset?
I think it just means that people enjoy listening to podcasts more than they enjoy going to church on Sunday. I mean, that was it for me, right? Like, I wanted to play video games or hang out with my friends Sunday morning. I didn't want to put on my nice clothes. It was a whole to do. It's on like my one day of freedom.
If I was the Pope, CEO Pope, in the spirit of adapting, just like every other company has to in order to stay relevant and to keep growing, I would say you can go to church by listening to this podcast. This is church. You don't have to actually go somewhere and kneel in a pew. You can do it where you can worship wherever you want to worship, and making that okay. But I feel like there's such pomp and circumstance around going to church and that being the part of the week that you are only religious.
This isn't an argument against religion. It's actually an argument for religion. So if you enjoy going to mass on Sunday and participating with probably friends and family, right? It's actually a great. I mean, churches are great communities when they're not murdering the rest of the world, right? Like they're. Sorry, I just can't help myself. But like like that's actual like a good community. It builds up social values and social fabric that brings people together, and it's a lot. I mean, it can be a lot of fun if you believe in what other people believe and hang out with them, and you're gonna have a good time. So if you want to. If that's where you want to invest your time and money, I'm not going to by no means am I going to stop you. But to me, it just dawned on me that it's a media. It's like going to the movies or going to a live event. So I can't fault anybody for doing it. I'm actually envious of all the resources that the Catholic Church has, and starting a startup on my side. I'm like, I wish I had that brand recognition. It'd make my job a hell of a lot easier.
The Christians that I know participate with Christianity in a cultural way and not in a literal way. Most of my friends celebrate Christmas. Most of my friends have at least an awareness of Easter, whether it's only used as an excuse to get together with their family and their friends, not so much as a worship vehicle. Yeah. Going back to the Apple and Google and Amazon allegory, I think they just need more time before we're sitting around a campfire and singing songs about Apple, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're already watching. Yeah, we're watching Amazon Originals already, so we're already on the live. And they have live events. I mean, think about Apple. They have the Apple conference. Yeah, exactly. That's going to church. You're going to worship at the altar of Steve Jobs, the original Pope, and then everyone that follows from him.
He's Jesus.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he's the Jesus.
Tim Cook is the Pope. Yeah, Tim Cook is the Pope.
In terms of what people worship the most these days is tech. I mean, at least, again, to use your words in my own little bubble, it seems that most of the conversation is around tech, not so much talking about the tech specifically, but the conversations that you have about things from the tech. for example, movies or in TV shows, social media. You have a lot of conversations, negative and positive, about that kind of stuff. And it's all promoting, it actually is part of our culture now. It's not something that provides a doorway to culture. It is the culture.
Yeah. And it's a common culture too. So it's, right, at least with the people that we hang out with, you can talk about a phone at a dinner party, or you can talk about the new computer you got, or even talking about podcasting, right? It's all technology that everyone is getting familiar with, that it now becomes also like a commonality between all of us.
And I do wonder though, because it is so fast moving, that really in the modern tech age, the only real thing that seems to have remained is Facebook. Google isn't really its own culture, but Facebook is. I mean, Google has tried really hard to have, I think, multiple iterations of some sort of social network that have failed.
Yeah, they just closed Google Plus. I mean, Apple has a culture associated with it. Like you say, I'm an Apple user, and you're like, oh, okay, I get you now.
Okay, so as another side note, can you explain this to me? So I've been a Mac user all my life. Not necessarily
you've been overpaying for hardware for the last
See, that's exactly. So I want to get behind, where does the Apple hate come from? Because when you go to somebody and they say, what kind of car do you drive? Oh, I drive a Lexus. You don't immediately start saying like, oh, I guess you've been overpaying for cars for the last 30 years. Well, that's too bad. Like, that doesn't happen. So what is it with the Apple hate?
So I love the phones. I think the phone as a product is so significantly better and was so significantly better than Android that I become an Apple fan via the phone. But the computer, at least from since this is like the last, maybe let's say 15 years, I play video games on the computer and I do a lot of development work, and it's for the money. I can just get so much more processing power. Right? From my perspective, having a limited budget, it's like, why would I go waste it on having a nicer OS? Because that's really what you're buying when you buy a Mac, is the OS. I mean, you're getting quality hardware, but it's overpriced quality hardware.
Do you want to amend or change or reassert your theory that Catholicism is really just a company, or a really well-run, lasting company?
Hey, are all done?
Almost done. Talking to Paul. So I want to do the research to confirm that.
In my ear.
He can stay in the podcast. Doesn't bother me.
I would like to do the research to confirm that we have all of our Catholicism implications correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if that's true, I might just limit it to Catholicism,
Daddy!
with the stipulation that it could apply to the other religions, but I don't know enough about them to make the generalizations.
Well, I would agree. I would agree with you that Catholicism seems to be the Apple of religions. There may be bigger ones, there may be more pervasive ones, but it is certainly the household religion.
Now I just got to make sure that everyone knows what my company logo stands for. And hopefully it doesn't stand for murdering people in the Crusades.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that's what you